Okay, well, thank you everyone for being here today for the Friday, October 3rd, 2025 KMPUD regular scheduled board meeting, calling the meeting to order. Let's do roll call. Here. Schroeder here. Epstein.
Present.
Oh, I see. He's on that. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Is Robert here? All right, we're all here. Announcements.
Yeah, we would like to welcome everyone to the regular scheduled board meeting. If you're attending online, please use the raise your hand function. If you're in person, please go to the podium so our speakers can pick you up.
Thank you. And I'll also say that we will do all votes today by voice, since by roll call, I'm sorry, since Claude is remote. So we have to do a roll call votes today. Okay. Okay. All right, let's move on to agenda item number 4, corrections to the agenda or consent calendar.
I only have 3 questions, just curiosity about the consents. One is, I saw a charge in there for Flynn Creek hydrant. So I didn't realize we had any expense or whatever for the circus. So do you know what that is?
Shouldn't be an expense. It should be,
Oh, it's income?
it's income
Okay.
for the hydrant rental for the circus.
Okay, so they rented the hydrant for water.
A construction hydrant, yeah.
And then the second one was on page 26. Who's Nicholas Termatini?
He was a subcontractor who helped us with the water samples.
Oh, yeah.
We
Okay.
had 2 Nicks. He was one of the Nicks.
Yep, okay. Nothing else except it was nice to see us retire some RUS debt. 750,000, so it's good.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 5, comments from the audience. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on any short non-agenda items that are within our subject matter jurisdiction. No discussion or action be taken on matters not listed on the agenda for the ground. I don't see anyone in the room, and I do not see any hands up. Rick, can you confirm that for me?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 6. This is written comments from the public. This is where we put written comments that we receive to all the board members in the packet. I did not see any for this agenda. Okay, let's move on to number 7, adoption of the consent calendar. John asked some questions, so hopefully we can have a motion to then get a motion to approve. Is there a second? It's over, second. Okay, roll call vote, please. Sure. Aye. Schroeder? Aye. Epstein?
Aye.
Rupert? Aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Okay, thank you, everyone. Let's move on to agenda number 8, consent items brought forward. There have been none others brought forward for discussion. Move on to agenda item 9, items for board action. Start with 9A, water and wastewater rates assessment. I'll hand it over to our general manager.
Yes, pull this down.
Page 31.
Thank you.
I can't see.
Page 31. Oh.
To answer Chris's question real quick, there's 11 participants online. And I'd like to introduce Mark Hildebrand. As you know, Mark was the engineering consultant who did the original water and wastewater rate study. As the board was informed, in most of the community, we did receive our manganese waiver from the state. And so with that waiver, which Brandy Vincent will talk about a little bit later on, we'll be able to adjust. The board has the option to adjust the recently approved water and wastewater rates. So with that, Mark, would you like to jump in? I do have your PowerPoint, Mark, but I've got your memo up now, so it's your call on what you want.
Great. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Is my audio okay?
Yeah,
it's fine. Thank you, Mark.
Great. Excellent. Yeah, so, great news that the district was in fact granted the waiver. We were aware of that as a possibility before we went through the 218 public hearing process, but we thought it prudent to make sure that the district was positioned to be able to fund the project if the waiver was not granted. But now that it has been granted, I ran the numbers to see what this did in the near term in terms of the rate increases that are necessary to meet your cost obligations over the next 5 years. And rather than proposing the 14% per year that was shown during the original study, the new numbers come out to be 12% this year and then 10% for the next 4 years. So it's great news. I do want to point out that if you look at the long term, if you look at years 6 through 10, you will notice that the plan has changed. It's gone up. It's gone from what used to be 7% to 9%. And the reason that is because while this waiver is good news, you have to recognize that it's really just a one-time cost that's going away. And in the long term, the district is positioning itself to be able to fund year in, year out a certain level of capital spending. And so the 10-year goal is to get to that point where you're funding a capital program, and the size of that capital program hasn't changed. You did manage to avoid one relatively sizable capital project in the near term, but in the long term, the district still needs to deliver the same volume of capital year in, year out. So again, the near-term rates have gone down, but when we come back in 5 years and look at your rates, you can expect them to be a bit higher than what we had forecasted last month, simply because you're foregoing larger rate increases in the near term. And I really don't have a whole lot more to add. I can get into more details if you'd like, but I guess I'd rather just open it up to questions if you have any questions about the math or the future.
Sure. I'll also just highlight a couple of things. First of all, this is only impacting the water rates, not the wastewater rates, right? The wastewater rates maintain.
Correct.
Okay, so let's be clear on that. The second thing is that because we followed the correct 218 process, all the process that we needed to follow legally to notice and everything to approve the rates that were approved at our last meeting and hearing. This is a reduction in those rates, and therefore we do not need to follow the same process again. Can you confirm that for me, Mark?
That is correct. Yeah, you can simply vote on it without going through another public hearing process.
Great. I just wanted everyone to hear that and understand that in case they were wondering. Let me open up to the community for any questions.
Well, a couple other clarifications too.
Sure.
One is with the long-term capital expenses, what Mark was talking about. I mean, it's good to fund those. It helps us avoid taking debt. The best way we can reduce the cost of utilities is to reduce our large amount of debt that we have. So that's a reason why that discussion for Mark is pertinent. The higher rates will be in place for October and then go down in November. So there will be 1 month where the higher rates were in place. That's the only other. Oh, and the final thing was, why didn't we wait and just see how the waiver turned out? Because the information from the state was, hey, we don't know if we've ever given a waiver. We don't know how long it's going to take. So we had to move forward with the original 218 study. And we're kind of fortunate that the waiver came soon after.
All good points. And I think the other part of this, Mark, I think that we would have to think about is, I guess I'll remind everyone too, and maybe Brandy or Rick, you mentioned the testing changes that we were recommended to this process that hopefully will even yield in a year or so from now enough tests that we will be below any thresholds that we know of, at least today. Those could always change over the next 9 years, of course. But we will have to potentially reapply for this in 9 years, in which case we will potentially have a similar conversation of, funding something versus voting for the waiver. But that's 9 years down the road at this point. And so
Right.
we want to think about how to fund that so it's not massive jumps in the immediate future.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, my intent was to have Brandy bring that manganese requirements, the waiver, all the things that we can do in the next 9 years to hopefully never have to introduce the green sand filter in the operations report, but
Excellent, thank you.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, there was a lot of background, trying to catch everyone up in case you haven't been to all of our meetings in the last many months, so hopefully that makes sense. Let me open to the public for any other questions they might have on this topic. Okay, I see no one in the room. I don't see any hands up. So I don't see any questions from the public. Board, any questions?
Doug, I have one question.
Sure, go ahead, Bob.
Since we haven't done invoicing yet for the previous, why not make this effective October 1st?
Mark, I believe we have to, because of the way the 218 is written, we have to actually implement this on October 1st. And then once the board approves the reduction, then it can be implemented by the next month, November 1st. Is that correct?
No, from a legal standpoint, you never have to charge more than you want to. So when we exchanged emails, I had assumed that the bills were already, I thought from administratively it was impossible to rescind the bills for the 1 month. If that's the case, that the bills haven't been sent out, then absolutely you could make it effective immediately.
Okay.
All right, are we okay delaying sending out bills to make sure that we would do that? Is that you might?
She's not gonna send them out now, she's working on them right now, so I think, yes, we could delay, obviously,
Okay,
to accommodate this.
well
Yeah.
then let's maybe make
That
sure
helps.
nothing goes out yet, while we're sitting here, and then, I would be happy to do that, Bob. I had understood similar to what Rick had said, so happy to make this effective October 1st, so that no one saw any of the increase that we had originally approved, and we're only gonna ever bill for what we potentially are gonna vote on now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. All right, so then I would want a motion then that says to adopt the lower rates as proposed by Mark here, effective October 1st, 2025. Is there a motion to?
Yeah, I was,
Okay,
Second.
John seconds. All in favor, roll call vote, please.
Sure.
Aye.
Epstein,
Aye.
Duker. Aye. Member Guy, it's unanimous.
Thank you, everyone. And I just want to, before we move on to the next agenda, thank everyone in the community one more time. We did have to get hundreds of people from the community to respond to surveys in order to have this even as a possibility to file with the state. So we really appreciate everyone's responsiveness and attentiveness to this topic. So thank you to everyone who participated. All right, let's move on to agenda item 9B. This is fire and emergency medical services in Kirkwood. So as everyone knows, we've been having conversations over fire and emergency medical services for many, many months now. So I won't go through the full history here to catch everyone up. I'll encourage you to go to the KMPUD website to do so. We have lots of information there, listen to old board meetings and documents in our board packets. But the item that I want to discuss today specifically was an update from our last meeting for when we spoke last in September. We were potentially going to move forward with sending a survey out based off of numbers that we have been negotiating with our partners in Alpine County, who many of which are here today. So thank you for joining us. When that happened, we had been working with a CAO that had been with Alpine County to speak to. In the middle of that process, a new CAO started. I believe I should refer to him as the CEO effective now. So when I wrote this, it was CAO, but now he is the CEO. Charles McKee. They've changed titles now, so we need to refer to Charles as the CEO in Alpine County. And he worked with his staff and team to adjust some of the numbers through his diligence process. And then his staff took it to the Alpine County Board of Supervisors at the September 6th meeting that they held. Rick and I were both attending that meeting so that we could answer questions and help staff and the supervisors understand what we're doing. I'm happy to report that the Board of Supervisors did pass unanimously the proposal and what they came forward with. There are some updates that came through that, as I mentioned. And so what you can see in the board packet, if you maybe scroll down for me, Rick, is the changes. I tried to highlight here what we had been talking about maybe earlier in the summer in August, what I call the August 1st, what we presented versus the October 3rd values that we're talking about today that were approved by The Board of Supervisors was on September 16th, so you can see what the numbers were, what they were then, and that the Board of Supervisors approved, and then the delta between that, the change. So some of this is on direct expenses. There was also a change in the contingency, so the direct expenses totaled $43,000 in terms of an increase compared to what we had seen earlier in August. The contingency was bumped up $47,000. There's also one other item that the Board of Supervisors mentioned, which was there's discussion at their meeting around the administrative burden on Chief Washam in terms of servicing Kirkwood as a new station. And the suggestion was to have a battalion chief as the one of the three people that would be hired. We had originally been considering only the 3 captains option. The Board of Supervisors recommended having 2 captains and 1 battalion chief, again, for the purposes of administrative servicing of us. So that difference also is listed there in the level of service section. And then if you take all of this together, you can see what the total values of the change would be, were about $94,000. So then if you look at the bottom part of the table, it's the totals that we had before and after, right? If people have heard me talk about this before, I always think of this as the X plus Y minus Z, where X is the Alpine County budget, Y is our own operating costs, and the Z is the property taxes that we have voted to allocate, which is, those haven't changed, the operating costs and the property taxes, it's just the change here. As John and I thought through this with Rick and staff, we think that the direct expenses that, these are the best estimates coming from our partners in Alpine County. There's, we trust their judgment on this. So we would recommend increasing our internal budgeting of our X plus Y minus Z by the direct expenses. The contingency, John and I believe that we already have contingency covered in the initial proposal. This increase in contingency that Alpine County had suggested, we think we can cover without increasing our total request. Because if you remember in our meeting from before, we had $480,000 is what we allocated, but we still have $200,000 that we want to keep around for contingencies, for other expenses that the district has to maintain, for tier ratios, other things that are out there. So we think that we have that amount covered, and therefore we don't think we want to go out to the community with that extra $46-some thousand. So if you scroll back up to the recommendations here, Rick, what we are proposing for us to do is to update the engineer's report by the delta of the direct expenses plus the battalion chief, which is about $46,000, which would bring us to that bottom line number of $355,000, which is up from, I think it was $308,000 before. And so that will cover those direct expenses and increased level of service. And as I said in the sentence here, we already have that $200,000. So our recommendation is not to increase it again with that additional contingency, and we can use that to cover it. And then once this is updated, we would use these numbers to then send the values out to our customers with their proportionate of the $355,000 that they would be requested to contribute to then service this. That was a lot. I spoke for a while there. Taking breath. Did I miss anything?
That was good. One breath.
Got all three.
The thing I'd probably add to this is that this survey we're going to do is kind of like a mock ballot, right? So everyone is going to be assessed, is going to see what they're going to be assessed, and we'll learn from that as far as we'll see what the sentiment is to support this. Where we're exposed is if we don't get responses. If we don't get responses and then we get responses in a real ballot, that could dramatically change the outcome. So we're really hoping to see, especially the big components of this, meaning commercial, be able to respond. So then we've got a good indication. If we get the results of the survey and we don't have a high response rate, then we're not really going into a real ballot with a good prediction of the outcome. So we still think it's the right thing to do is to go out with this survey.
What is your feeling on it in the community? I've heard good and bad things, right? It's a much lower number than the initial one you guys did. But I don't, what do you guys get back? Is it feasible? is the community positive on this, or have they responded at all yet?
Sure.
I don't know who wants to go.
I mean, I'll start. I mean, so that was Sheriff Binder asking it what our assessment of the, well, yeah, please come to the podium next time, sir. Asking what our sentiment, what the sentiment we've heard is. I'll start with Kirkwood Mountain Resort. Vicky has been very attentive to the conversations. He's been a great partner to work with on this. I think he really understands what we're going for and what we're trying to do here. He did attend in person the Board of Supervisors meeting on September 16th, and he gave comment there. One of those supervisors there asked him directly whether he would support this or not. And he did not give a direct yes or no answer on at that time. But I think he's still working through his budgets and what he's thinking through, his expenses of what he needs to cover. So, we continue the conversations from there, but I would say from the community side, my conversations that I think I've been in now 7 or 8 HOA meetings, which typically happen over our summer here, where I've attended and talked about this, generally very positive support. We've had people come to the board meeting saying positive support to it. I think in general, the feedback that I have personally received has been positive from the community members I've spoken to. But I would certainly welcome anyone else to chime in what they've heard.
I would agree. If
Any other, we have lots of people from Alpine County. Anything that you want to add in terms of Board of Supervisors meeting? Did I represent that pretty well? Any changes to the budget that you want to talk about or anything like that you want to mention? Okay. All right. Any other questions from the community at this point? I don't see any hands up this time. Okay, board, any questions on this?
So do we need a motion to approve the survey or not?
I don't know, do we need a motion? I don't think we
No.
probably do. I think at this point, we can just say, continue as forward and we're okay with what's proposed here.
Okay, and then what actions are we taking to try to maximize the response to the survey?
Yeah, and this is one of the things where I've been pestering HOA presidents individually over the many months here on this, but I'm trying not to ping them every month. And so I've held off a little bit until we have a little bit of concrete. And so I will certainly continue my correspondences with HOA presidents, also with Kirkwood Mountain Resort, with property developers here and owners, ownership group. I will reach out to them again. I think we'll talk about the survey. I think we'll do community forums that we've done in the past. Those are all things that I think we will do. Individuals talking to their friends in their HOAs and in their community and their circles will also be helpful. I'm sure we could put a Facebook post out there as well.
What's the date of the survey? When would it be put out there and do we have the date when it would be posted and the response date?
It will depend on the engineer's report because we'll have to ask that to get updated with the new allocations, and then that will take a little bit of turnaround. And then our staff who work on developing the survey, we've drafted the language. It was something that the board has seen. So this is language, if you remember, it was maybe 2 meetings ago that we had the survey language that we drafted. That's pretty much ready to go. And then it's just filling in those pieces and testing it one more time before hitting send. I would imagine a week or so from now. And then my hope is that we would have it ready for our November board meeting with the survey results for us to discuss.
How much time do we want to allow people to respond?
I would say a couple of weeks and I think in the draft of the thing, we say that we will discuss these results at the November board meeting. So, whatever amount of time we need to close it and get that process before the board packet is, sometime in that window. So hopefully it's about 2 weeks. That's my opinion, at least. Bob, does that sound good to you?
Yeah, more than 14 days, the response rate really doesn't change.
Yeah, I was going to say that my experiences of what I remember hearing on that in the past is something to that effect. So 2 weeks is kind of our sweet spot.
So we would just set it from 2 weeks from the date it's sent out.
Yep. Something like that. Okay. Any other questions?
So we're going to be obviously going back to our engineer to revise the numbers with what you reflected.
Yep.
The next meeting with Alpine County is on the 14th. I guess my question is there any? Would the price go up on the 14th and beyond, and we have to redo the engineer's report a second time? I guess.
Well, given the Board of Supervisors has approved it
Mhm.
as we've outlined it here, I will look at my friends here and say it's unlikely to change if we talk again on October 14th.
I don't,
One of our supervisors just joined us, so I'm here.
Yeah, sorry I was late, I was at another meeting.
No, it's okay.
I think it is what it is.
All right, so I think we'll probably be good.
Thank you. I just,
Appreciate that. Okay.
yeah, thank you.
And as Rick alluded to, we've got a meeting on the 14th just to go through and just touch base again on some of the items here. And I will highlight again, one of the things that we always are trying to recommend and remind is that the budgets that you see here are estimates. Our position in the business items and terms that we worked on together, John helped drafted it. Thank you for doing it like 6 months ago, 4 months ago, 5 months ago. I highlight that this is a time and materials proposal, at least, that's what we want to go forward with. I think Alpine County is receptive to that as well. But this is, the budget that you see here it's not gonna literally be every dollar that's in here. It's going to be, what did they actually do? What were the costs for clothing? What were the costs for training? What were the costs for legal? These are estimates. And so, there could be money left over that's collected, and we can think about how that plays out in future years.
Thank you.
All right, anything else from,
I have one other question.
go ahead, Bob?
The salary shown there, is that the salary and what's the burden, fully burdened cost for the individual?
you have the list?
It's, if you want to pull it up, real.
Yeah, I'm bringing it.
It's down at the bottom here. Sheriff Minna will respond to that.
So for 79,000 is kind of what we got, and we're kind of an estimate, trying to get a battalion chief, trying to get captains, instead of if you go to another agency outside of here, it's considerably higher on the battalion chief, so. But chief, hopefully we'll be able to find somebody to fill those positions at that pay rate, so. It is an estimate, we tried to look out and kind of get it, between the numbers of all the different departments, that we may have to steal somebody out of one of these days, and we don't know if that's gonna be enough.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's a number that's the fully burdened cost for the individual.
Overall, including,
Weighted, it's weighted.
yeah, it's the weighted rate, yeah, that is the weighted rate. Bob? Including, the PERS, as you go through everything. Well, I don't have a total cost of everything, but as far as the PERS goes, that's all included in that 79,000, yeah, okay. So that is the whole weighted rate.
Any other questions? Okay, well, for those in the community in Kirkwood, look hopefully for a survey to come to your inbox here in the next week or so. And then hopefully we'll be able to speak to these in November. All right, well, thanks again. Thanks all for being here. Thanks for your help with this and supporting the Board of Supervisors meeting in September. Appreciate you all very much. All right, let's move on to agenda item 9C. From the finances now.
All right.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. We're reviewing July finances. So we have overview and budget variances.
Yeah, so basically it wasn't a great month, mostly because of the operating costs that are outlined on this summary that'll carry through the year. The other part is we're still on, we do the estimates of revenue on a 5-year average, and we still have the COVID years in there, so we're coming in that we sell less utilities than we expected, right? So
Right.
those are probably the two big drivers. And then on the cash side, it's probably the $750,000 to RUS,
Right.
is a significant amount.
Yes.
But the summary's kind of taking the fun out of this section of the meeting.
I know, sorry.
It's like, get all the answers up
Yeah.
front. So.
On a positive note, we've made year-to-date $38,960. Any other questions on the overview? If not, let's move on to the balance sheet. Okay. So total operating is below budget and total capital reserve is higher than budget. Any other questions on the balance sheet? Okay, let's move on to the combined income statement. Right there, yep. Okay, as John had mentioned, we did have some expenses in operations and maintenance that were higher than budget, that will carry out throughout the year. Any questions on the income statement or on individual funds? Okay.
I don't have any.
No.
Yes, any?
No,
Yeah.
I'd say the other item that's going on is we're in the audit process, right?
We are.
So, I know finance has a subcommittee that's involved with the audit. We met with the auditors and got an update on that, and it seems like it's tight to get the schedule done, so hopefully we'll get it done.
We're working. We're trying to get everything to them as soon as we can, so.
Yeah.
Could you just remind us that schedule, the audit schedule?
So I know we just had audit week last week, providing them with their requested items. We still have some other items to get to them. We will be covering one with the property tax allocations, the next couple agenda items. Once they're approved, I can actually provide those to the auditors so they can start tying up their trial balance.
And we expect, but then from there going forward, when they will complete the audit by?
I don't have an exact date, but I know like they're waiting. I'm assuming it will be sometime I'm hoping in October.
Oh, you think so? So
October, November. Like I said, it depends on what we're still waiting. They're still waiting for some requests from us to provide. So depending on the timeliness of that.
How long it would be in November?
maybe November Finance Committee.
No, it would be more like December, January.
Okay,
So like I said, we're moving as fast as we can, and we were short staffed for a while, but
That's not a complaint. It's
Yeah.
a question.
yeah. Like I said, I would like to see sooner, so that's my goal, is to try to get things done as,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
every finance thing I get involved in, people want the books closed faster and they want the audit faster. And
Right.
the books be accurate and I want the audit to be accurate. So,
Right. Exactly.
I mean, if we were a public company, we were being held back on our reporting and it was impacting our stock price, then I'd be like, we gotta get to the quarter close. But
Right.
It's not our situation.
We just want to make sure we're providing the information that they are
Yeah,
requesting.
and then for the size of our revenue, our business is ridiculously complex. I mean, to have all these enterprise and non-enterprise businesses, and multiple income statements, and a 501(c) for whatever size of our business. It's 10 times more complex than a company that should be like 100 times bigger. That makes sense. And you got government regulation as well as commercial regulation, so. It's not simple for a relatively small business.
Any
All
other-
good?
okay, any other
Any
questions
questions?
about finance? Agenda item 9C from the community? Maybe, any other board comments or questions? Okay, let's move on to agenda item 9D, it's the USDA Rust resolution, so this is Terry.
Yes. So in order for us to, for our annual reporting to USDA, we have the report certified. And we're requesting that we have, a resolution to name Rick our general manager as the certifier. So this resolution will accomplish that.
I have any questions from the community? Board questions? Otherwise, I think we need a motion to pass.
Right.
3505, that's okay.
Okay, yeah, motion to approve 2507.
So,
2507.
okay. Is there a second? Yeah, I'll second that. Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Senator Rutana,
Aye.
Schroeder, aye.
Epstein.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. All right, let's move on to agenda item 9E, property tax allocations. There you go.
Okay. So, can you go down to the next screen? So we're requesting that the board approve the proposed tax allocations for fiscal year end 2025. You can see that are highlighted on the right in orange. You could see the allocations by fund.
And this is just to remind, like, help us why we're looking at FY25 allocations for the audit.
It's for, yes,
Auditors wanted to know that we had.
approve the allocations, yes,
As we have now. seen.
yes.
I think it's that we allocated as we.
As we said we would, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
It is a little weird.
Yeah, but we said we'd do it this
Do
way,
it, yeah.
and we did.
It's just, we just have to have board approval.
Yeah, so motion to approve the property tax allocation.
Okay, thank you, John. So there's a second.
Just a question.
Okay.
The interfund loans that are just there for informational purposes, correct?
Correct, because they were paid off after the fiscal year end.
That's what I thought.
This is
Thank you.
based off of 630, yes.
Yeah, okay.
There's a motion by John. Is there a second? Second. In favor, sorry, wait, roll call vote. Are you there, Bob?
I didn't hear my name. I'm here. Aye.
Hoover? Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. Great. Let's move on to 9F, launch tower and launch tank power and level sensor. And
This agenda item is something that we have been discussing at the staff level. We did briefly mention it during the utilities update at the last EOP meeting, but we did not yet have a proposal. And so I'm sorry for skipping over the EOP with the proposal, but there is a bit of urgency to this one. So the background here, as I've said in the staff report, the previous lodge tank, which is over by Chair 5, water tanks level sensor, runs off of power that comes from Vale's Chair 6. In January of this year, they contacted us and asked that that power be separated. It was put into place back at the building of the lodge tank, but we weren't able to find any agreement to that effect. And so we have been working on plans to replace that. There's not a really good situation because of the lack of single phase power there and the, requirement to trench up the hill. So we were looking at a solar option, and then in July, we had a lightning storm and lightning strike, which actually took out some of our telemetry, including the existing lodge tank sensor. So since then, we've been operating our water system, estimating off of the Dangberg tank levels, which is fine for off season. It's not a problem for low occupancy months. But in the coming months, especially if there's going to be snowmaking at Timber Creek from the drinking water supply, we should not go into winter this way. So what is proposed here is Control Point, who is doing the SCADA portion of the wastewater treatment plant, was contacted, and they were able to provide us a phase 1 proposal to install a solar system, battery installation, and level sensor at the lodge tank. and to start the ball rolling on what we would like to see as a SCADA project to improve the telemetry and the sensors for the water system. So we do have included in the capital budget $80,000 for the lodge tank power and level sensor project. This phase one proposal that's in the packet came in at $79,980. And so we are requesting approval to go ahead with this project this winter, so that we can get the parts ordered and we get this installed before snowmaking starts. And then we'll bring all of this, including the phase two project, back to the EOP at their next meeting.
I have a couple questions, but let's do the community, see if the community has any questions first. I don't see any. So this would be basically a completely off the grid system now. For solar panels there, I mean, I'm sure we can design it in such a way, but I'm just trying to think out loud, make sure we thought through like how we would like snow loading. Are we gonna have to have people climbing to clear snow potentially? And what kind of sizing of the system are we thinking about in terms of being able to have, coverage, panel covered for a long period of time, and the battery storage and things like that?
Sure. So it will be a relatively small installation. It will be attached to the existing handrail at the top of the tank. So at the top of the ladder, there's partial rail that goes around the perimeter. It would be attached to that, both the solar panel and the battery. It's a pretty low power draw. We have not the same system, but a similar sort of system on the propane tanks to give us some remote information there. And it's a button battery that's replaced every 3 months. So we're not talking about a huge amount of power draw here. We did discuss with Control Point, are we going to have to climb up there and get the snow off of it? Their feeling is no. My feeling is we're going to have to wait and see. We do have access to the tank. There's a caged ladder and we have, harnesses and safety climb equipment. We'll keep an eye on this during the winter and see how we go. And I've also asked the resort, understanding their position that they'd like us off their power, if we can leave the existing power in place for the winter, even though it would have to then power a different sensor. We would put a secondary meter on that in case we get into a midwinter situation where we have some unexpected challenges. We would have another source of power up there. So just as kind of a stopgap to get us through the first winter and make sure we don't run into any issues up there.
All right, so that's a temporary solution, like the secondary meter to maintain the current system. And then sometime next summer, 2026 summer, you would actually disconnect.
Correct, and this is pending approval. We have not heard,
Right.
not heard back
You
yet, but
requested
we're
approval,
hoping
so-
that would be fine for this winter. And then come summer, just abandon the existing underground line.
And then what about lightning strikes? And if that's what took us out this last time, we're putting something up, like what other concerns do you have with lightning? And
There is an existing antenna that would be replaced. The lightning strike actually was a problem because our current telemetry is running off of copper phone lines. So this is going to eliminate that completely. It would be radio transmit. So it doesn't eliminate the concern that nothing could ever get hit, but it would eliminate something gets hit and then feeds through our whole telemetry system and takes additional things offline.
And when you're talking about climbing and having to potentially clear snow, I mean, we've talked about that a lot with like the propane tanks and investment that we're gonna make there. Are you worried about any of the safety in any way similar to what we were worried about safety here? Is this like a risk that we are exposing ourselves to of people having to climb up in a way in the winter? Are you worried about this?
It's a different concern. It certainly, so with the propane tanks, we're worried about having to get into a snow tunnel,
Sure.
basically. With this, it's climb up a ladder, and access the top of the tank. So there is some concern there, but like I said, so within the last 8 years, we've installed safety climb systems, which is a harness and cable that you can attach to climb up the ladder, and there's a cage on the ladder. So I think that the increase of risk is minimal there.
We can manage that risk
Yes.
where propane is obviously a lot more hazardous.
Good, just make sure that was right. Any other questions? Can I ask you?
Are we obliged, required contractually to make this? I was gonna say concession to KMR. Is it a concession or?
I mean, we've discussed it at the staff level, if without having an agreement that we can point to say they provide power. We do have the easement agreement when the tank went in, that they were providing land and partial funds, but nothing that I could find was written down. And that aside, this line that we're using right now is not in great condition. At some point, it's gonna have to be upgraded anyway. And if there's a way for us to just remove ourselves from the system, I think that's probably the better way to go.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, I assume that the panel has access to direct sunlight.
Yes, it does.
So, I mean, the ice is going to melt.
And that's exactly what Control Point said too. They said, you set these at such an angle that there should be little concern with having to get up there. However, I'd like to see it before I say
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like trees blocking, things like that, I'm sure.
There
We
should,
will do those things to make sure it's in a good position.
right, absolutely.
Okay. In motion to approve staff to move forward with this project, get going with the project.
And I move to support staff's recommendation for phase one of for the launch tank.
Okay, this motion, is there a second?
Yeah, don't look, I'll second that.
All right, roll call vote, Peter, please.
Andrew Butler.
Aye.
Jordan. Aye.
Epstein,
Aye.
Cooper,
Yes.
Clifford, aye.
okay, good. Move on to agenda item 9G, SSMP internal audit.
Right. So the SSMP is the Sewer System Management Plan. The board did adopt an updated plan in 2024 to comply with a 2022 state order. Our plan requires every 3 years for us to do an internal audit of our system to see how well it's working and if there are opportunities for improvement. The last one was done in 2022. So this is the 2025 version. In 2022, 2 improvement opportunities were identified. One of those was update system maps and create a comprehensive atlas of the wastewater collection system. And the second was to encourage key operators to pursue a voluntary collection system maintenance certification. Of those, the system maps component has been completed. We do have updated system maps. We do have atlases for operators to use as they move around the valley. With Derek Dornbrook's departure, we do not have anybody currently certified in this collection system maintenance grade 1 certification, but it is a voluntary certification. So as we move forward in getting all of our operators the required certifications, this will remain something that we encourage people to pursue. So other than looking at those, what we have done in the last 3 years, took a look at the SSMP itself, which is really long and included in your board packet. We found 2 items that require updates this year, and those are included. So element 2, organization, we needed to provide an updated version of the org chart and the contact information. So those are included, and that has been completed with this. And then element 4, the operations and maintenance program. Section 4.4 of the SSMP references a sewer master plan, but that has not yet been completed. As you're aware, we are in the process of doing that. It's scheduled for completion this fiscal year, if it hasn't been done yet. So we just noted that here with a target date of completion by the end of the fiscal year. And I would be happy to answer any questions on this document or the process here, if anyone has any.
Is there any community questions? And I don't see any hands up. Board questions? Okay, do you need a motion to approve this?
Please.
I would entertain a motion to approve the sewer system management plan.
Dornbush, so move.
Is there a second?
Yeah, so.
Todd seconds. Roll call vote here.
Member Rotunda.
Aye.
Schroeder. Aye. Epstein.
Aye.
Tudor.
Aye.
Member Guy.
Okay, thanks, staff, for the work. Let's move on to agenda item number 9. There's project update.
As you know, we're trying to close out our Rust loan. And getting the final invoices, number 14 and 15 to, from Stantec, which have to be a process of closing out a large loan, of course. And Eric Christensen's still being retained to assist us with that. We're on the final throes of that. Unfortunately, with the government shutdown this week, it might delay the closure of this loan. So currently, we still have a co-bank account that's associated with the loan. But we'll bring this back once we know more information, but things are moving behind the scenes to hopefully get us out from underneath this loan and close it. It's been a busy month for me coming on board. There's a lot of transition and change, and I appreciate staff's patience, especially with the Zoom accounts, the 5-Star Bank account. And then there's about a dozen other little accounts that have to be switched over to me. We're slowly getting to that process. And then things that pop up, appreciate the board approving the SSMP as well as the tank level sensor today, where normally this would go through operations or in the EOP meeting for first consideration and brought to the board for approval. Hopefully moving forward in the next month or so, we don't have this occur again. But that concludes the major project update, and as well as the general manager report. I kind of segued into that.
Questions? Projects? Okay. Anything else in the general manager's report?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, so then we've done 10, 11. Let's move on to 12, operations report.
I'm going to start off just to cover the fire portion because I'm still your volunteer fire chief. To help me, because I've got a few more things on my plate, I've got a new volunteer assistant chief, one of my captains, Captain Joel Gomez, who's going to help me with some trainings and so forth. And I appreciate him volunteering his time. He doesn't have the certifications and the things that I have, but he has, like all my other captains, a lot of heart and integrity and drive. And so between the two of us and the other two captains, we hope to keep moving forward with the fire department, which I'm pleased to announce we only missed 4 on-call shifts last month. So we've got a good core group of about 11 or 12 volunteers right now. We had 11 calls for the month of September. Most of those were EMS related. There were a couple of alarm calls, and year to date we're up to 105, actually 107 as of today calls, which is, looking back historically, is a little bit above average. And if weather changes, we might beat our 129 call for the year, the average that we've had for the last couple of years. And then finally for fire, we have upskill teaching our first aid public safety Title 22 class. First class began last night, and it's going to continue on for the next several weeks. And we appreciate the donation from the KVFD 501c3 to allow us to, with the tuition, to help us pay for that course. So thank you to them, and thank you to the board.
And to the people who contributed to the 501c3.
They did. The community's helping us out, so we appreciate it. That concludes the fire portion of operations. Brandy's going to cover the other departments.
Well, so as we mentioned earlier in the meeting, the manganese waiver was approved. There are a couple of things with that we are aware of that we're required to do. One of those is that we're required to continue monitoring manganese at well 4 and 5 annually during the term of the waiver. And then the second condition is that we're required to notify our customers that we have this waiver, that we are operating under it annually, and we'll do that as part of our annual notice to consumers. In addition to those two requirements from the state, our engineer had recommended a new sampling plan and protocol just to ensure that our current sampling program is doing everything we can to make sure we're getting accurate results and not artificially showing a higher number. So we were able to bring our final water operator on board this week. We will be working through in the next month, getting this new protocol operational and see where we're at there. But we are very pleased. The state was wonderful to work with, as was Ashley Smith with Verdantis. So we're happy to have that one off our table for right now. Another thing that I'm happy to report is that the Loop Road electrical project, which resulted from the ground fault this winter, was completed as of last Friday. So all of the wires in the ground, all of the elbows are built. We can now backfeed the system if necessary due to other issues. The playground's down as of last week also. And then as we look forward, we have plenty of work left to do, but we're in a much better spot with these projects done. We're looking forward to Qualcomm coming out in 2 more weeks to do paving on our facilities also. That's all I have.
What's going to be paved?
For us, we're responsible for our facilities, our parking lots here. We're going to be doing a patch on the water main break area on North Loop Road. And then we're responsible for Powerhouse Road. So if you see white areas marked out in those locations, that will be our paving.
Okay, thanks.
Given our snowstorm today, thinking about snow removal, how are we lined up in terms of contract signing and operators in that area of operations?
We've received, I think, I've signed all except for one contract, which I think they had a board meeting. I think I'm waiting for one contract, but everybody's committed. All the contracts been signed. The first ACH for the first payment, which was due October 1st, has been sent out. Because of the delay of getting contracts to HOAs, a couple HOAs had to wait to have a special meeting to approve the contract. So we're going to waive any late fee and then ACH then once we receive the contract. We also revised Exhibit A for KMA. It was an older layout of the HOA. It was fairly correct, but Larry Parker did a nice job updating that. And so we're working with him and the KMA to kind of clean up that exhibit. Other than that, the personnel committee approved the hire of a seasonal foreman, I think it's the right title. And we are currently hiring for snow removal staff. We do have some returning staff, of course, but we are on track where we should be on October 2nd or 3rd here for snow removal.
Contracts are October
15th.
Right up.
Right.
Brent, I had one question for you.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
You said you measure the manganese at the well 4 and 5, but isn't what matters what the blended is going into the service?
It is, the condition here at the state requires us to manage it, or sorry, to monitor it at each well 4 and 5 before it gets blended. That is actually the condition that we were notified of violation on previously too, not the blended average.
I see. So do we measure both then?
We can measure both, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I don't think there's anything else about it. Thank you. Great. Move on to agenda item 13, standing committee reports. Start with finance, John.
Nothing further to add. You can already talk about in this meeting. We're gonna meet Wednesday and have some focus on the potential of the public benefits charge. See where that goes, but
Okay.
I think that's an issue that was important to some of the board, and some of the committee members.
Great. All right, I'll talk about communications. So as always, you have your board packet that includes the report from last meeting. I will highlight one of the things that the committee is thinking about is I think it was Bob that you gave a suggestion towards thinking about our branding and logo, about reminding our community that we are a community-owned utility. We work for them. And so we've started that discussion. I imagine at some point there will be a board agenda item talking about how we can use that language, what the language will look like, maybe what the logo will do. It'll be something that phase in that into our letterhead and materials over time or communications. But if anyone has strong opinions about language reminding our community that we're a community utility, or how to update our logo or change it, you should certainly let me know. We'll take all feedback on it. We'll get feedback on it when we come up with a design to come forward with, but just want to give you all a heads up.
We're gonna incur costs for the project.
The plan was to try to do this as only refilling things that are.
Okay, you're not hiring a designer.
We're not hiring a designer, we're just
as you roll it out, you'll just replace stock.
That's the plan for this. That's the plan. And if
Um,
design is-
I'll volunteer to bring in some samples next month. Because I have a lot of the SMUD stuff. And
Oh,
I've
great.
been working with their senior management recently on unrelated projects, so I can also try to find out who on their staff thinks about this.
Perfect. Would appreciate
I think
that.
the main point, it's a little bit like what Rick said in his acceptance, is to just make the marketing more focused on a community, that this is a community supported and built and funded utility.
Great. So that's what we'll be working on, and then we'll meet next week. Let me look at my list. Personnel. So personnel, we met, we had a couple of agenda items. The new general manager had some ideas in terms of organizational chart, some recommended changes, which we'll continue to discuss and bring that to the board sometime in the future, probably November. We talked about the housing that we purchased for family housing. I'm excited to report that is being currently occupied by a family. So we turned that around quickly, and it demonstrates the need for that kind of housing. It's great to be able to have having families be able to be in district owned and managed properties, but that way we can maintain cost of staff. That's good. We talked about dental plans. There's some logistics on Delta Dental and some of the insurance policies. The staff is making sure to consider cost-effective and supported plans so that people in rural communities like ours can get dental care effectively, cost-effectively, and effectively. So we'll just keep an eye on that. Let you know if there are anything important that the board needs to take action on there. IT and cybersecurity, Bob.
We had two discussions at our last meeting. The first one was in terms of internal systems reliability. We've had some non-critical issues that we want to address, so we've discussed how to proceed there. And then the other thing we discussed is having a consistent way of editing documents. So if there's board review or other things like that, there's one place to find them and comment on them. And we had asked Melody to look into a couple of options and report back. So we'll have some recommendations after our next meeting.
And then LAFCO did not meet. We don't have any temporary advisory committees to report on. So 14, we don't have anything. 15, general board discussion. Is there any general board discussion? The only thing I'd like to say in general board discussion is welcome to Rick. And he's been in this first month, and I'm sure it feels like more than a month. But I know working closely with him for about 4 weeks now that he's been in this position, he is doing everything he can to get everything in order. There are some bumps along the road. We are smoothing them out. I think I'm really happy with the work that Rick's been doing and impressed with his diligence and commitment and not surprised by it, I would say, but I'm always impressed by his commitment to the community. And we're trying to do best by our community members. And it's been a lot to jump into to take over for Eric. But we just really appreciate, I'll speak on behalf of everyone here. We appreciate what you're doing, Rick, and jumping in, and really glad to have you. Great first month. Like I said, we'll work through the nuances here. But it's a lot to take over, and we appreciate what you're doing. So thank you for that.
Next time.
And I know he mentioned staff and having to adjust as well. So thank you to staff for accommodating change as well. So we appreciate that. All right, any other board discussion? Okay, I will adjourn the meeting now. Our next regular board meeting is scheduled for Friday, November 7th, 2025 at 2 p.m. Look forward to seeing you then. Thanks, everyone.
What's the record? It's our board record. Show us board meeting. We had a director.